Hey guys, I've been going back and forth about making this video for a while, but after seeing that no one else is really talking about this, I figured someone has to, so it might as well be me. I would like to preface this by saying that overall I do like the Highlander rework, but I think it's a mixed bag, as there are some parts that I really don't like. But for most of them I think the ship has sailed and Ubisoft has explained their stance, so even if I don't like it, and I think I'm speaking for most of us here, we need to accept it. However, in spite of what I just said, I do also think that Highlander has, as the thumbnail and the name of the video and the picture that you just saw would imply, he does have a significant problem in his kit that does make him a lot less fun to play, in my opinion. And it's meant that Highlander has gone from a defensive or counter-offensive menace to an offensive in-chain nightmare. But, as you might have guessed, through all of it he's kept his just simply awful neutral game. Prior to the rework, it was manageable, as Highlander did have tools that allowed him to gain space and get into offensive, mainly as backstep light, as unhealthy as that might have been. Now it's clear that Highlander just has nothing in the neutral department, and this, in my opinion, almost nullifies his entire kit, because it really doesn't matter how good his in-chain is if there's just no way for you to feasibly and consistently get into it. And we're now back in a state where Highlander becomes hard countered by people who just sit and stare at you, and there's nothing you can do in neutral, and it leads to a super boring interaction and fight where the Highlander is waiting for an attack to counter to get into offensive form, and the other guy's just waiting there for the Highlander to throw something. And the conclusions that I've drawn from my time spent playing post-rework Highlander, and I think this is one that virtually every Highlander can agree with me on, he just needs easier ways into offensive stance. And his current lack of neutral is, at least in my opinion, one of the biggest dampers in his enjoyment factor. And for those of you who would argue that Highlander already does have an easy way into offensive stance with his feinting into offensive stance, I somewhat agree with you. However, I would also argue that it's situational and is prone to things like light interrupts, which limit its use significantly. So, in light of what I've just said, I would like to propose 2 fixes and also rule out a third that I've seen once or twice. First, I'll begin with the one I want to rule out. I do not want to give Highlander a Legion Kick variant from neutral. I think this is a lazy and uninspired fix, which, yes, it would definitely fix his neutral problem to give him an unreactable bash from neutral. I also don't want his strong offense in his defensive stance, as I think that contradicts his identity. Powerful offense should be reserved for offensive form, which is why I'm ruling this one out. The first actual solution I would like to propose is to make Highlander's neutral lights, and only his neutral lights, enhanced. This would allow Highlander into offensive form much easier, and also make him harder to shut down from neutral, because you would have better and easier flow. Yes, I understand that against someone with better reactions, it still doesn't mean much, but for your average player, this is fine. This can stay. It also, in my opinion, fits with his defensive stance identity, which is big swinging attacks that are kind of hard to stop. It's very hard. It should be very hard to stop a Highlander swinging in defensive stance. Secondly, and this is probably my preferred method, is that I would fix Celtic Curse, which, if you don't know, is Highlanders dodge forward heavy in defensive stance. Celtic Curse, right now, it's almost useless in a dueling scenario. Its input window into a forward dodge is far too late, to the point that it can be guard broken on reaction to forward dodge. To fix this move, I would widen the input window and make it slightly earlier, whilst also giving it similar hyper armor properties to Yorm. This means that in the end, Celtic Curse would end up having a input window 100 to 300 ms into the forward dodge and a 400 ms startup for hyper armor. And speaking of Celtic Curse, I want to fix and talk about something that has bothered me ever since I found out about it, and that is Celtic Curse's asymmetry. I think it's really weird that the left and right have two completely different sets of stats attached to them. So, I want to fix this by copying the properties of the right Celtic Curse onto the left, meaning that both Celtic Curses are now 600 milliseconds fast. They have the hyper armor startup 100 ms into the move, and their input window is 2 to 400 milliseconds into your dodge forward Celtic Curse. Together, these two solutions would give the character an at least semi-useful neutral that is quite similar to Yorm's. However, I do not want to copy Yorm's neutral entirely, as Highlander has significantly better in-chain, and therefore for balancing purposes, his neutral has to be a little weaker. So, these were my proposed solutions to fixing what I think is at least Highlander's biggest problem right now. Let me know in the comment section what you think of my solutions. If you have any solutions of your own, I'd also love to hear them. And feel free to like and subscribe if you want to see more content in the future. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.